Ladies, gentlemen, and friends beyond the binary, welcome to Step Back Tonight, the last one in this office. Hi, I'm Tristan, your host for tonight. And it's just, sorry I was a little bit late. I was just finishing up getting all the questions that were submitted onto a list. But now they are all in. So, I need to open up my opening spiel stuff. Here we go. All right, so my name is Tristan. I'm the host of YouTube channel Step Back History and Tristan Won't Shut Up. I stream 3 times a week on Mondays, Tuesdays, and Fridays. On Mondays from 12 to 2 Eastern, I do the Monday Discourse with Mia Mulder, my wonderful co-host. We talk about shit going on the internet, and we meme about history. It's all very fun. On Tuesday nights, the show you're watching right now from 7 to 9, I do the Step Back Tonight. So, I chill and I have a good time with all of y'all. And on Fridays from 12 to 2, I do The Reactor, which is a show where people submit links and I react to them. I go by he, him. Oh, and also, just heads up, because I am moving this weekend, I will not be doing a stream on Friday, so there will not be a reactor this Friday. And also February 1st, the Monday discourse I do on February 1st, I will not be doing because I will be packing in one and unpacking in the other. So busy times. I go by he, him pronouns, and if you want to watch my work, you can go to stepbackhistory.com or tristanwon'tshutup.com. Or I guess I should probably pitch patreon.com/stepbackhistory. I should probably add that. I'm just going to add that right now. Also, if you're watching us on Twitch right now and you have Amazon Prime, I just want to mention that Amazon Prime gives you one free Twitch Prime subscription every month that you can use to help an independent creator pay their bills with no extra cost to you. In fact, if you don't spend it, Amazon is keeping your money. So please help out somebody on Twitch with your Amazon Prime or Twitch Prime subscription. If it's me, I'd be very, very grateful. But of course, I just want you to help out somebody, because otherwise Jeff Bezos just gets to keep your money. Yeah. Other things too, if you want to see my latest videos on Step Back, my latest video is on Martin Luther King. Came out last Monday. It was for Martin Luther King Day. It was pretty good. And it was on the Poor People's Campaign and how he was a lot more radical. You know, those kinds of things. On Tristan Won't Shut Up, my latest video was on Star Trek and why you should be watching it. Because it was good. And coming up on those channels, I'm working on... I just encoded today a video on the Yakuza, the Japanese mafia. I have it up for patrons right now. So if you're a patron, you can actually watch it right now. I'd maybe wait until the stream is over, but then, yeah, go to my Patreon and you can go and get access to the video. It's out for patrons. If everything gets approved and goes well, the video should be releasing to the public on Friday afternoon. So enjoy that. And the next Tristan Won't Shut Up video is probably still a ways off. Hey, BlazeShard5426.
Bezo bucks for y'all.
Thank you for some Bezos bucks. Yeah, so the next Tristan Won't Shut Up video is likely going to be, I've titled it on How to Stand Out, which is sort of about, in a competitive field, some stuff I've learned from evolution and also from the music industry, what brief experience I had with the music industry. What I've learned about how somebody distinguishes themselves in a crowded space in order to make something that is unique. Because a lot of areas, like there's a lot of people who want to become, YouTubers and stuff like that. And, the YouTube space is very crowded. When I first started on YouTube, there was no bread tube. There was barely any left-wing YouTubers at all. And now there are a lot of them. And if you want to really get your head above the crowd, you have to do something. And so that's like kind of the setup I'm going to go with for the next Tristan Won't Shut Up video. I have plans also to make an episode of Star Trek Enterprise, which we'll save on that one. I'll be looking at it later. Yeah. Hey, thank you for the raid. Woo. Okay, so another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna put in the chat here. I'm gonna put in the chat here. It's a thing for submitting questions to these streams. I probably won't be getting to any of these streams until sometime, or these questions that you submit right now until sometime next week, but because I have a handful. But I also am low on questions, so we'll see what I'm low on questions that are not specifically for Mia Mulder. So a lot of people have questions. Like there's a big backlog if you want to ask Mia Mulder questions. There's a much shorter one if you want, if you're okay with just me answering them. So I would get those in there. Um, I'd get those in there, and yeah, we'll see what happens tonight. Whew. And also, Step Back has been growing a whole lot. I've been getting about 100 subscribers a day, and the last 2 days it's been 200 subscribers a day. I am en route to hit to 100,000 subscribers sometime this summer, which, like, is pretty huge. They send you a medal when that happens, so I'm pretty excited. Finally getting there. Yeah. But if you are, all that is to say is that there's a lot of people who might be watching the stream for the first time. And if you are new, we have a pretty active community on both Twitch and YouTube. So if you haven't been on a Step Back stream before, I would really highly recommend that you say hi in the chat, because it's hopping. Thank you, by the way, Yona Shinigami. I didn't respond because I was going through my opening spiel. I just wanted to make sure. When are we going to get an OnlyFans? Oh, boy. When will I post whole for money? Trust me, that's something nobody wants to see. Somebody asked me about religion. Tristan, are you pro or anti-religion? I need to know. I am not religious myself. I really haven't been raised in any sort of religious tradition. I've never been to church or anything like that. I guess I grew up in, like, the nominally Christian culture of Canada. But I am an anarchist, which means that I am against the idea of telling other people what to do, by and large. And so in my mind, if you're not hurting anybody, you should be, if you're not hurting anybody, you should have the freedom to practice any spiritual practice that you want to practice. And I do know that for some people, religion is a very positive force and a very important part of their identity. I don't want to take them away. I don't want to take that away from anybody. Obviously, religion, like all sorts of, ideologies and things that we get into our heads, can make us do terrible things as well. People have done terrible things in the name of their belief in free market capitalism, Christianity, communism, Islam, Buddhism, ethno-nationalism. Like, horrible things have been done because people believed in some sort of, like, bigger thing than themselves, which, like, is sort of one of the bigger things that humans try and do. It's a very important part of us to feel like we belong to something bigger than ourselves. Unfortunately, that can lead us to do some terrible things. But I'm not going to take it away from people. I am more for making those bigger things you belong to better institutions and better for people. So, if you are religious, cool. Good on you. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of beautiful practice, a lot of art and culture that you're going to contribute, that you're part of, that's contributed to the world. But yeah, don't be cruel to people. That's sort of like that's my take. And now that I have said it, I've popped the top by saying that I don't think religion is bad and we should hate everybody who practices any religion. Maybe put them in camps. Maybe, do a cleansing of someone's ethnicity or something like that. But because apparently if you don't hate religion with burning fury and the concept of believing in something that is spiritual, if it does not fill you with a burning anger that makes you want to commit war crimes, then obviously you're not a true leftist or whatever. I don't give a fuck. I believe first and foremost that everybody has the freedom to explore whatever idea that they do if they're not hurting themselves, if they're not hurting other people. They have the right to think about whatever they want to think about. And I will never, ever tell people to stop belonging to something that's so core to their identity and their, their culture and their history. And I know where you're coming from, because when I was 18 years old, I was also an edgy atheist. When I was 18, that was when like edgy atheism was at its peak. I remember it. I was like, well, maybe not 18, maybe 20. 18 18 was like 2006, so I don't think it was quite there yet. But 2008, 2009, I had some pretty shitty takes. But then I grew up and realized that it's okay for people to be different than me. That's okay. In fact, our world would be very boring, and it would lack a lot of really wonderful qualities if everybody was like me. So that's fine. I'm cool. I'm cool with not, I'm cool with other people being different than me. I can accept that. Some nice water. Okay. So I'll save this file, close it, because I'm not going to need to do that opening spiel until next week. Okay. So I do have some questions that people have submitted. And, we'll see where we go from there. Landlords are bad. This is true. What are my thoughts on socialism? As a socialist myself, I'm very interested in what an anarchist thinks of the concept of a socialist state. Socialism is a great way to organize an economy. I definitely believe in, the whole public ownership or, collective ownership of the means of production. I just don't. My major issue with socialists, whenever it comes up, is that they then say, okay, we believe in collective ownership of the means of production, but when it comes to the ownership of the people in a state, I mean, people, they should not be allowed to collectively make their decisions for themselves. Instead, we're going to have a one large institution that you can't opt out of, that you are born into, and that you have to be a member of. And if you disobey the rules for this organization that has never, you had no say in whether or not you joined, then we're going to possibly kill you, but more likely put you in a horrible little black hole where you'll never see another human being ever again. But don't worry, it is collective ownership, because once every several thousand days you get to say a little bit about whether you get to choose which person gets to make the rules of the organization that you're not allowed to leave. So I see a lot of room for improvement in that part of it. And I would rather we lived more communally and based on helping communities and each other out, and having a more interlocking system of local communities that are based on actual relationships that you have direct influence over, because it's the people that it's your community, it's your neighbors, it's your family. And that you make decisions the same way that you make decisions with a group of people, i.e., it's a negotiation, and it's done with people who all know and have personal stakes in each other's happiness and success. That's the side I want to make, and then you can have a very tightly interlocked relationship with other people. With other human beings and other groups of human beings. But, it's voluntary. You can join or not join. Economically left-wing, but socially right-wing. That's cute. So it's I believe in economic equality, but when it comes to the gays, I don't know. Usually when you say that you're socially right-wing, it means that there's some minority or some oppressed group that you're okay with oppressing. So I don't know if it's LGBTQ plus people. I don't know if it's a certain ethnicity or a racial group that you feel like need to be oppressed. But I would highly recommend that you not pursue those ideas and let people be whoever the fuck they want to be. Or more accurately, let people be who they are. When I say right wing, it means I am religious. Okay. Well, that, I don't know, like, as long as you're okay with people existing and being happy in a different context. As long as you're not a supremacist, I guess. Anyways, what do we got next here? How would a socialist society in the United States conduct foreign policy? This is from Aerial Warrior Twins. And it's a decent question. I never really know what, I mean, what I'd say is that, it would really depend. I mean, you look at like what socialist foreign policies of yesteryear have been like. They have participated in all sorts of things. They've been all over the gamut, from being hyper isolationist, like you got like North Korea, for example, that doesn't have much of a foreign policy at all, to like the ideas of like people like Trotsky, who wanted to have an ongoing permanent revolution that is trying to undermine capitalism everywhere in the world where it is. So really, the United States, if it became socialist, could go in any of those directions, because internationalism versus isolationism is sort of not unique to socialism, or is not really a settled thing in socialism. And so it really depends upon who is in charge. But yeah, I could see a socialist America that becomes a lot more isolationist and decides to not be. I mean, you don't have to do a whole lot to be more isolationist than America now, which basically is like, the emperor of Earth. But also, I could see a socialist government getting elected that's like, well, we can just use all of these military bases to force everyone else to become socialist too. So, yeah. North Korean foreign policy is most definitely no. All right. My biggest communist friend is religious and pure left-wing. It's not like that's a contradiction. It's true. You can look up like liberation theology, which is like a sect of Catholicism that the Pope belongs to, which was definitely an idea that merged ideas of Catholicism and, socialism. Because it turns out socialism's super fucking Christian. So that's a thing. Oh man, remember that horrible map from a few weeks ago? Yeah, what's it called? That person who was like a super Stalinist who made a map of like what socialist America would look like, and the borders made no. I mean, it does feel like it would be like what like a Soviet Union style America would be like, because they were huge countries that had borders that made no sense. And for ethnic minorities, they made fucking like Bantustans to force all of the black and indigenous people into. It was really fucking awful. And it had random dumb shit that also the Soviet Union would have done, like having a massive city like above the Arctic Circle. That makes no sense. There's no reason to put it up there, but because it's the Soviet, it's the northern SSR, so therefore we need to somehow make a city in like the fucking Arctic. That's why like you can always like even today if you go on like the Trans-Siberian Railroad, some of the stops are still like these like tiny towns that have been almost abandoned, but like because they're like in the middle of fucking Siberia, there's like nothing around. But like the city is just a giant apartment building, and that's it. Soviets weren't super into making things that made a whole lot of sense. So. Do you know that Trump pardoned a mob boss who killed an undercover cop? How much do you want to bet some of these pardons were just sold? I wouldn't be surprised. That's true. Suggesting Twin Rabbit's video on Stolen Anarchy. It's a very interesting exploration of some of the major indigenous but bastardized influences on anarchism and socialism. Cool. I haven't seen it, no. I don't know who Twin Rabbit is. Would I still consider Nicaragua a socialist country? I don't know. Shit's going on in Nicaragua right now with Ortega that I don't understand. So do you consider Stalinism left-wing? I personally see it as final stage capitalism. I mean, Stalin was, he was definitely for the collectivization of the means of production. It's just that he was very much into the Red-Brown alliance. He took that kind of like socialism, but also nationalist. Like, why don't we bring back Russian patriotic shit? Why don't we, do the socialism in one country thing? In some ways, socialism in one country was a process to not, constantly be at war with the entire world for the entire existence of the Soviet Union. So in some ways it was to, like, keep it around. But in other ways, he kind of doubled down on, like, he was very much like a megalomaniacal, kind of power-hungry guy who wanted to keep, keep in control of things. Are designer cats unethical? Like, they're not as fucked up as dogs. I don't even know what, like, you mean like cat breeds? I mean, I don't particularly care. As long as they're healthy, that's all that matters. Fellas know what you want to think about third worldism? So like things like Nasser and shit. I don't know. Nasser, like, yeah, it's a good question. I think third worldism was probably a logical decision for a lot of people who lived in the, who lived through the Cold War, because in many ways, like if you think about third worldist countries like India and Egypt and Yugoslavia and Sweden, they were all over the place when it came to their like economic position. But their main thing is that in a world where you were being explicitly pushed under the influence of the United States or the USSR, like neither of those sound like optimal positions. You don't really want the IMF to put you under these horrible development loans that then make you have to do a bunch of neoliberal shit in order to survive. But you also don't want like tanks rolling into your country because you had the audacity of wanting to have a multi-party election. So there wasn't really a great side to be on in the Cold War. And so third worldism does seem like it could be like a logical position to take between those two. Lots of design breed cats have breathing problems along the lines of what happens with pugs. Okay. You could buy cats that are crossbreeds between domestic cats and smaller big cats. The look is interesting, but they tend to have genetic problems. That would not surprise me because that's a different species. Yeah, Blake's correct. The Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact that's kind of ahistorical because at their meeting where they had their non-aggression pact. Their non-aggression pact involved a coordinated invasion of Poland. So I got a question here from Bolt. Hey Tristan, love your content, also a leftist. Asking from one history nerd to another, have any videos on how the Nazis and fascists in general stole symbols from the Norse and other groups? It's a topic I love and it ties into their propaganda. I haven't seen too much of it on YouTube so far though. I talk about it a little bit in my video about the swastika, if I remember correctly, and the fascis. I think it's the fascis where I talked about it a bit more. The sort of, you know, bundle of sticks with the axe in it and where that symbol comes from. I was planning on doing this a little bit more of a series called Symbology, but my swastika and fascis videos were never as popular as like some other ones that demanded I make series on them, so I never got around to it. Might go back to it at some point, but yeah. And yeah, you're right. There isn't like a video on like the at least not one that like sticks out to me like right away about like the appropriation of pagan symbology for from the far right, but I'm sure there is one. It's a pretty like, you know, pretty well trod topic by like classicists and stuff. I mean, the idea that revolution can't happen in the third world or the first world until the third world is liberated. That's not what third worldism is it? Anyway, possibly. I mean, right now, I think that you could probably make the argument that we are part of the global proletariat or the global bourgeoisie that that, you know, take all of the resources of the planet away from the parts of the country that. You know, because now we have information technology and logistics patterns that let us kind of export the working class, at least the most exploited working class people, the working class people who would actually rise up against their bosses and put them on the other side of the world. And so, yeah. When I think of third worldism, like my mind goes... Like to me, the third worldism is was like third world was like the ideology of staying out of the Cold War and not choosing a path between loyalty to Moscow or to Washington. I don't know. What are your thoughts on exotic pets like tarantulas, lizards, and parrots? They're fine. Parrots are quite a commitment. You get a parrot, it might outlive you, because I think they live to be like 80 years old or something. But if that's a thing you want to do, I mean, go for it. I had a friend who had a tarantula. I thought that was pretty cool. They don't do that much, is the thing. Tarantulas, like, the thing about like a pet tarantula is that it sounds a lot cooler than it is, because you don't feed them all that often. Like, I think, like, my friend had a tarantula, and I think she only fed her, like... maybe every couple weeks, and that when there isn't, you know, a cricket to eat or something, they just kind of don't move. You just kind of, you know, they don't do anything. Lizards are different. I've had many friends who've had lizards, and they do run around and do stuff. They still are rather immobile compared to, like, you know, cats and dogs and stuff, but be cool to have like, pets are cool. Like, pets like that are cool. I don't think I might be getting like, I don't think I could commit myself to any of those. Like, you have to kind of, you know, really be committed, because to get like a lizard, you have to get like a terrarium with like a heat lamp and stuff. But, and parrots, you have to commit, like, I'm going to be raising this bird for my whole life. But where's Phoebe? Phoebe is right there. She's lying on my hoodie. There's a cat bed literally right here, but no, she's lying on my hoodie. That is in the Rubbermaid container. She's helping me pack. Oh, yeah. Does breeding different species count as genetic abuse? It's complicated. Yeah. Birds, you have to be really careful with what you cook with and what you burn in your apartment or house because they have very sensitive lungs. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Shit. Yeah. I don't know. I've never had a parrot, obviously. I know that, like, if you get, like, a macaw or something like that, they can be very pricey. Like, they're gonna put you back, like, $1,000. And, as far as, like, I know that, like, tarantulas are pretty, like, you don't have to feed them that often. You don't play with them because they could bite you if you manhandle them. You kind of just have to clean out their terrarium every once in a while, and get all their shed skin and stuff. Whenever they do a molt. I've thought about wanting to have a pet scorpion for a while, but I don't think that's going to happen. You can get slings, but rather not start with a baby. Rats are good pets. That's cute. I know that they're pretty smart. I've never had a rat, but yeah. I have. As for pets right now, I've held a tarantula before. You just don't want to spook it. That's true. Like, I mean, like, they don't bite. Like, you have to provoke them quite a bit to have them bite. But for the main thing, like, unless you're like doing it as a party trick, I don't imagine it's like you just like pull out your tarantula to walk on you for fun, you know? I have at the moment I've got 2 cats, and whenever I whenever I move in my when I move to the new house, one of the first things I'm going to be looking into doing is getting a dog. I know because last week we had a very long conversation about dogs in the chat. It was pretty fun. And there's some possibility I might get an aquarium at some point, but that's like, very, very long term. Tarantula can live up to 30 years? Holy moly. I would come visit you and just pet your dog the whole time. Oh yeah? I thought you wanted to see Phoebes. But yeah, I've been looking at dogs on the Humane Society and stuff like that, so we'll see what happens. Aquariums are so much more expensive than they seem. Yeah, that's true. This is why, like, I'd wait for a long time. I wouldn't get one unless I knew what I was doing and I was doing something pretty, basic. But yeah, I know that aquariums, like, when you get into them, they can cost a lot of money. I don't want to get like a huge one or like a anything that's like tropical or like what's it called, saltwater. I think all that stuff makes it a lot more expensive, so I'd be limited in the kind of things that I would go for. Good that you're looking for adoption options. That's really important. Yeah, I would never buy a dog from the pet store. I would always go with like what's it called, like the SPCA or something like that. You have a pet blue jay? Jesus Christ. That'd be terrible. Those things are so loud. So next we got here is a question that says, how do we prevent fascists from using open source software and code without ridding of open source? That's a good question. If you have an answer to that, I would really like to know it. Things like Mastodon, where like, it's an open source software that, like, the thing is, you can kick fascists off your platform because it's open source and it's not run by corporations and stuff. But that doesn't stop Nazis from being able to make their own Mastodon. There's really no way that you can make something that is free and open for everybody and then also say that some people can't use it or wouldn't be allowed on the platform unless you made it more like a thing that created and controlled a platform. So there's that. Something wipes out every animal aside from birds. Then 100 million years from now, the sapient bird archaeologists argue that the dinosaur age was continuous. Those weird furry animals just took over for a bit. Oh, well. That could be a thing. Just remembering there was a really weird episode of Voyager where dinosaurs leave the Earth and go to space. That was funny. Okay. Well. Let's delete this one. You meant paleontologist. That makes sense. What's my favorite dinosaur? Ooh. There you go. That's a good question. Gosh. You know, I've never been asked that before, is the thing. I really think, like, what's a cool aspect of evolution that, you know, it's not one of the sexy dinosaurs, but it's one of the, like, cool things about the dinosaurs, or a certain type of dinosaurs that I was like, really, this is a lot of convergent evolution here in interesting ways. And I don't exactly know. I think they're like a family of, like, a group of dinosaurs, but I think one of them is called like the Ankylodon or something like that. And it's the dinosaurs that evolved like armored plates on its back, but then also evolved this bony nub at the bit of its tail that could like fucking crush bones and stuff like that. Like it was like a fucking sledgehammer at the tip of their tail. And I always thought that that was an interesting evolutionary path for them to go down. Just thinking of an animal that could do that is pretty intense. Also, like, you know, the typical 8-year-old go-to of the T-Rex is kind of fun, especially now that we imagine that T-Rexes are like giant, fluffy brown birds that that mostly ate carrion. I like this like beta male T-Rex a lot more than like the Jurassic Park T-Rex or whatever. Stop reading my mind. What, the thing about the tail hammer? We're gonna find out in like 40 years that they'll be like, oh yeah, the dinosaurs that had the like fucking hammer tails. They didn't actually use them defensively. It was just an elaborate thing they used to fuck, which is like the description of all weird things on dinosaurs. Oh yeah, well, we can't find a reason for it to exist, so it was probably a display thing for fucking, because that's what birds do. Every time you see a ridiculous thing on a bird, it's for mating for some reason. Tyrannosaurus, excellent, perfect. Five years, they found a good mummy of an ankylosaur in Alberta. Sweet. I also, I know that maybe this is like a second answer. I know you're only supposed to get one, but this is a dinosaur that I thought was really cool until I grew out of dinosaurs being the thing from Jurassic Park. And then I think on their own, they weren't like all that interesting because they added stuff. I used to think the Dilophosaurus was pretty cool. But, you know, as you know, the Dilophosaurus did not have neck frills or spit acid or whatever. So I imagine It was kind of more of a normal. It was just a theropod with little what's it called, with bagels on its head. So, do I know Benji Thomas? I do not. Get weird evolutions that provide no benefit and could actively make the animal easier to spot because it makes them easy. Because this is the thing. This is like one of my favorite things about evolution, is that that they'll evolve a body plan that is ridiculous and counter to their survival. Like, it might make them less able to survive, because if you can afford to waste all of your energy on having like a big stupid thing, then that means that you are fit enough that you will be able to breed. And you end up involving these like ridiculous things like the rhinoceros beetle, where literally their horn is not used for anything except for having the bigger horn so that you can flip over the other males so that you can breed. And it, like, it's big and cumbersome and wastes a lot of energy. But if you can waste that much energy and still live to breed, then that makes you sexier. And so then you can breed easier. It's like, what a thing. Our brain is ridiculous. Rhino beetle's the original himbo. Yeah, it's true. I don't actually know that much about Dilophosaurs, except that they were probably just like, your typical theropod dinosaur that ate small animals, and was probably, someone said, I think the one in Jurassic Park was supposed to be a baby, is the thing. And I don't think people got that across properly in the movie, so that the Dilophosaurus in that was supposed to be a baby, but it wasn't. Because it's supposed to be like, what, like 10 feet tall or something like that, isn't it? Spent a lot of time listening to this guy named Gregory Paul, who was a really good artist, but not a paleontologist. Yeah, I can imagine that if there was a animal that had venom, that there would be there would be at least some ways that some evidence that you could speculate that they might have had it. They probably did not spit, yeah. I remember I read this book a few years ago that was by a, what's it called? It was written by a, like, paleontology artist guy, and it was sort of another look at animals. Like, it was a look at, like, dinosaurs based on, like, looking at animals and realizing that, like, the way that we look at dinosaurs, we kind of look at them wrong because we think we're only working off bones, and so we can't imagine fur or flesh, and like because we don't see their behavior, we just assume that they did one thing, when like animals don't necessarily act the way that you think that they do. And so they had like dinosaurs that we thought were exclusively on the ground in trees, because sometimes animals just like to jump in trees. Like, sometimes goats do dumb shit like that all the time. Or like dinosaurs in cold climates that were like fat and fluffy. And then I think one of the drawings in it was this drawing of what a baboon would look like if we drew them drew them the way that we draw dinosaur bones. And it looked like this, like, what's it called? It looks like this like weird reptile creature. And it's like, oh, now I can kind of get why we were tricked into thinking that dinosaurs were reptiles. All yesterday's. Yeah, I think that was the book I read. Have you ever seen the drawing of modern animals reconstructed from skeletons? Yeah, I just said that. So I thought that was cool. Burbosaurus, exactly. Also, apparently intelligence has like been on average going up in animals or something like that. Like brains are a lot more sophisticated than they were like 66 million years ago or whatever. And so apparently like dinosaurs, even like there's that whole thing about how like velociraptors were like these like super smart predators, and then it's like, no, the smartest dinosaur was dumber than a cat. Like it was just sort of which I think is hilarious. Shrink wrapping is the thing where they recreate dinosaurs only based on their skeletons. They are better at avoiding it and becoming more sciencey about it, which is nice. Yeah. See, like that's the thing is like when I was a kid, like when I was at peak dinosaur time is when you're like 8 years old, right? And when I was 8 years old, that was like 1996. And the thing about paleontology, especially the study of dinosaurs, is that like what we know about how dinosaurs acted and look is like has moved ahead by like leaps and bounds in like the early 2000s. Like the 21st century has been gigantic in like a lot of changes in how we understand paleontology. And unfortunately, I learned everything about dinosaurs in 1996 when I was 8 years old, and by watching Jurassic Park when I was a kid. And so that means that like every time I think I know something about dinosaurs, I have to like recheck because everything has changed in like the last like 20 years. And also I can imagine that paleontologists can be pretty pissed off at Jurassic Park because Jurassic Park, the art style they went for Jurassic Park in the 1990s was extremely inaccurate, but now that's what everybody assumes dinosaurs look like. And that is very wrong. Please check your warm-blooded privilege, exactly. Although if I remember correctly, dinosaurs were also warm-blooded. Did they know it was inaccurate at the time? As far as I know, they didn't. They focused more on aesthetic rather than like if I remember correctly. Like one of the stories I remember about what's it called, about Jurassic Park that I thought was pretty funny was the velociraptors in the movie are huge. Because actually, the know-it-all millennial at the beginning of the movie was right. That the Velociraptor was basically about the size of a turkey, and also probably had feathers and was kind of fluffy, and had like arm feathers and stuff like that. So it probably wasn't all that scary looking, to be like perfectly honest. But then, like literally, after the publishing of the Michael Crichton novel. Like, literally, like, months, like, maybe, like, 1 or 2 months before the movie was going to come out in theaters, they discovered, I think somebody pointed out in the chat, they discovered a species of raptor called the Utah raptor, which was exactly the right size of the raptors in the movie. And so, they were, like, they were retroactively okay. But they called them velociraptors, when velociraptors are about the size of turkeys. Like, they're not very big creatures. And then the most successful of that kind of branch got smaller and smaller, and are like the predecessors of our modern birds. Those are the ones that figured out how to fly, right? How would you justify paleontology to like a neoliberal who thinks that science and education have to be profitable? I don't know. If somebody here is an academic dinosaurs. If somebody's in the academic study of dinosaurs, I do wonder how. My guess is that in many ways, paleontologists probably. This is my guess. I want to know if I'm right here. Because a lot of people have to apply for grants, and usually when they apply for grants, they have to figure out how it's profitable or how it's going to have an industrial application. My guess is that there are two ways that paleontologists go about it. One is that they appeal to specific technologies that they're playing around with, or two, they appeal to crazy millionaires. Something makes me think that there are a few, like paleontology is one of those things where there's a lot of grants from like the something foundation. That's like some rich person who really liked dinosaurs who died and left behind like a yearly grant. So that's my guess. I do like the idea of calling dinosaurs danger chickens. That's a pretty good title. But I am kind of, but yeah, I was just trying to think about like paleontologists probably, like dinosaurs are one of those things that have no industrial application, but it's cool. And that's the kind of thing that like, that's the kind of thing that eccentric rich people probably fund. And then the other thing is like, hey, if we figure out how to make like stronger ground penetrating radar or LiDAR or anything like that, and it works on dinosaurs, then we can use it for other things. And so it's like a way to like prototype test like those kinds of like GPR technologies and things like that. That's my guess. Crazy millionaires privately funding digs and subsequently owning fossils is actually a huge problem in paleontology. Yeah, I would guess. But I also imagine that outside of the crazy millionaires, that there's probably not a whole lot of grant money for digs. Because I don't know any paleontologists, but I do know archaeologists, and they have the exact same problem. Should we study science that have no practical application? Like with paleontology, you can't even pretend this will help us colonize Mars or whatever. I mean, I believe that learning is good for its own sake. And the other thing, too, is that there's the whole basic research thing, which is that we don't know what kinds of discoveries we'll make for things when we're not actively looking for it. Like a lot of, like the example that I always point to is like how penicillin was discovered by mistake. But like doing science for the sake, like doing science and applying for, like, doing science for its own sake, I think is worth it, just because we never know what kind of connections we're going to come up with. And I think we're just curious creatures, and sating that curiosity, like sometimes having, like learning about stuff because it's interesting is enough. But on top of that, like knowing how like studying paleontology, my guess is that like it's a lot of us understanding how evolution works and understanding our own genetic lineages. Utilitarian application of paleontology is increasingly important to understanding climate change in the long term. Well, there you go. Wouldn't Canada have some government grants going to paleontology with stuff like Drumheller and the Royal Terrible Museum being in Canada? Yeah, we probably do. The Alberta Badlands have a lot of dinosaur digs, so I imagine the government probably shells out a bit for that. Yeah, dinosaur. To me, it's still like, and and this is kind of silly, but like it blows my, like, dinosaurs are like a thing. Like we've seen pictures of them, we see their bones and all that kind of thing. It's still super hard for me to 100% wrap my head around like the very real fact that like Tyrannosaurus is not like a dragon, right? Like a Tyrannosaurus was a real fucking animal, like an actual Tyrannosaurids, like breathed and slept and ate and shat in the real world. They're not fictional. They're real fucking things. And like you know, Tyrannosauruses are as real as like polar bears, and like that part like still blows my mind in like a really weird way, and I don't understand why I can't like mentally grasp that there was something like that alien that was real. And yet the blue whale is still the biggest thing that has ever lived. This is true. The fact that a human being can fit inside of a blue whale's heart is just like, holy fuck. Yeah, I was gonna say biggest animal for sure, because like there's like there's like trees and stuff like that that are like an entire forest is a single organism. Yeah, right now out in the ocean there are, blue whales, real fucking creatures. They're real. They're actual things. There's an actual animal alive right this moment that can fit a fucking bus in its mouth. Because blue whales eat buses. So that's how we know. And unfortunately there are fewer buses in the ocean than there used to be. So they're actually, they're running out of food. There are reports being posted about law enforcement knowing about plans for January 6th and doing nothing. And I just hear Dr. Condi Rice in my head going, I believe it said Bin Laden determined to strike in the U.S. Ooh. I studied creationism for years before I tracked Nazis. There's a running thing among YECs that biblical behemoth was actually an apatosaurus that breathed fire. Well, shit, man. Of course an apatosaurus can breathe fire. Makes sense to me. Something I find hard to imagine is that no one ever called a Tyrannosaurus a Tyrannosaurus. That word comes from... That's a word some Victorian scientist made up 65 million years after the last one died. By the way, Daniel Harper is in the chat on YouTube. Shout out. Dan Harper is one of the hosts of the podcast I Don't Speak German, and did an interview, tolerated my questions for an hour for an interview for future videos in the White Power series. And so, you should check out I Don't Speak German. It's a very fun podcast. I was listening to an episode a few weeks ago that convinced me that I need to make a video on Birth of a Nation when I make a series that I want to call Dark America, which is going to be really dark American history stories. So listen to I Don't Speak German, because basically what he does is he dedicates like a lot of time to studying the American far right up to this day. Like he listens to all their podcasts and he reads their forums that you have to like pay money to get into, and finds out what they're really talking about, what they're really into. It's pretty good stuff. Look forward to Birth of a Nation episode. Yeah, because I feel like the birth, like as you obviously you did the research for it and you've seen the movie multiple times. Birth of a Nation, weirdly enough, might be one of the most influential movies to have ever been released. Like, it's kind of weird how a movie, like, I mean, I can't think of another like just like Hollywood movie that had a bigger impact on American history than Birth of a Nation. The fact that the movie is like 100 years old and we're still talking about it. And it's odd because it's like a 3-hour silent film too. I had to watch it once for I took a class in undergrad called The History of Cinema, and one of the first movies we had to watch was Birth of a Nation, and it was a slog. What are your thoughts on Warhammer 40k and the fact that much of the community unfortunately hate mongering fascists, ruining it for the rest of us? Oh, Timmy the Tech Priest. We have talked about Warhammer 40k quite a bit on this stream. I'm trying to think about what I should... Imagine if Passion of the Christ created a Dominionist dystopia. You're talking about the Left Behind series? So Timmy the Tech Priest, I have to... Yeah. Warhammer 40k's got some cool stuff in it, and it's got one of those issues where it started off as a criticism of fascism, but then it was told from the point of view of the fascists. Because the whole thing is that Warhammer 40k is supposed to be like, it's written from the imperfect narrator point of view of a dogmatic fascist society that, because of its fascism, is crumbling apart and going into another dark age. That's like, but the thing is, it went way over the head of a whole lot of people, and it turned into, wow, cool Space Marines, and they missed out. So, I actually have a thing. So when I actually talked, like, one of my first streams when I started streaming was legitimately about 40k and how about this aspect that the Warhammer 40k fandom is increasingly being made up of like actual Nazis. And if there's one thing that hardcore Warhammer 40k fans hate, it is when people don't take their lore seriously. And so there's one faction in Warhammer 40k that very much does not take their lore seriously. They're called orcs, and they're basically an alien race of soccer hooligans who, through their psychic gestalt, can warp reality to fit their thing. And so I was just like, why don't leftists try to appropriate these orcs that are just like, their power comes from their numbers and they don't need to be super smart, but they also are the goofy badasses that are threatening to overrun the fascist humans. And I was like, so that joke lasted quite a while. And because of that, I actually have a tattoo of a Warhammer 40k orc that looks like a step back thing. So, and we use the orc gang to refer to people who are subscribed to the stream. And yeah, it's on my back here. I don't think I want to take my shirt off during a stream and show male presenting nipples to the camera, but it's there. Let me see if I can. I have some pictures of it, so I can find a picture of it. Oh, the bloody tattoo again. Whatever, the tattoo is fun and it's cool, and I actually can go a few days forgetting that I have it. Blimey. Did my wife take a picture? No, she didn't take the picture. The picture that I typically use is from the tattoo artist. She took the tattoo artist took it right after it was done. Yeah. I bet it's on my Google Photos, though, and so I can get it from there. Because it was back when I was... So that's the Orc Gang references, yeah. Because the more people join, the more powerful I get, the more powerful we get. And then, purple makes it go faster. And it's pretty cool. And also, I love that, first of all, it doesn't make any sense in the Warhammer 40k lore. and it kind of does, but I also know that Warhammer 40k like super fans, like the Warhammer 40k version of like hardcore Trekkies, fucking hate the orcs, and that's why I love them so much, because the hardcore Warhammer 40k fans are also the ones who are like, hey, what if fascism? So am I aware of Spice 8 Track? He's a Magic the Gathering YouTuber using lore to talk about left-wing theory. I have never heard of that before. I'm not really into Magic the Gathering because lost a lot of money doing that. Or what's it called? I was into Magic the Gathering at a certain point until I realized it was basically a scam because I was losing all that money. Okay. Here we go. So I'll just switch over to my desktop, my browser. So this is actually a picture of the tattoo I got right after I got it. It was drawn by Scutch. Scutch is an artist, friend of mine who he's that person who draws people's avatars on Twitter every so often. You've probably seen, like, he drew a lot of breadtubers pictures. The other thing that he does is, what's it called? It is a big tattoo. It's also my first and only tattoo, so it was long and painful, and it took me a long time to get. It took like 4 hours to get that done. Scutch drew it. Scutch draws all of the art for ContraPoints' merch, and yeah, you've probably seen Scutch's work around if you're on Twitter and you follow breadtubers. So I drew that. It was pretty fun. Somebody said something in the chat that I was like, oh yeah, unironically, yes, RE Left Behind. Yeah, the Left Behind series is basically Dominionist dystopia. And didn't they make a movie series of Left Behind? Because I was like saying, if they were to make like a really big blockbuster of Left Behind, I have a feeling that would. The thing is, I don't think it would be as popular today as like, what's it called? It wouldn't be as popular today as Birth of a Nation was when it first came out, because we kind of live in a different world. There was like 1 or 2 movies and they ran out of money. Yeah. I feel like if they had made a big blockbuster Left Behind like 20, 30 years ago, they might have been able to get away with it, but I don't think they could do it today. So that's enough of a picture of my naked back for now. It's funny because like I'm looking at that and I'm like, God, that was such a painful day. That was one of those times, like, have you ever been through something like really painful where afterwards, just from the, like, first of all, so much pain that you're shaking, and then when I got home, just the like adrenaline from experiencing that much pain over a period of 4 hours, I had to go home, or I went home and I like just crashed. I fell asleep because I couldn't like, for something about getting a tattoo, like the adrenaline or something, just got burned so much of my energy and I was exhausted. So that's a thing. Hey, if you're ever planning on getting a tattoo, which, I'm not against doing, obviously. If you get a tattoo, then start small, because I started by getting a huge tattoo in a fairly painful part of your back. So if you're gonna get one, Might I suggest starting with something else? The next thing I'm going to do is get that colored in at some point when I actually have like real grown-up money. So there's that. This is actually a pretty well-known sensation for those of us in the BDSM community. You basically had a sub drop. I see. Just like too much pain that your body just like kind of collapses. Yeah, that makes sense. BDSM people would have a word for it, since pain is the thing that they play with. Here's the thing, though, is that now that I am a, serious YouTuber and like the stigma against tattoos is starting to go away, and likely, hopefully, unless something really bad happens, I'll probably be moving from like, I'll probably be doing some form of internet media for the rest of my career, which means that I don't necessarily need to worry about like having my tattoos be, very subtle and invisible. So I'm not going to get a full face tattoo. That would be a bit much for me, but I might get more at some point. Well, Kelly's not like the biggest fan of them, so she might have some say over that, because as with this back tattoo I have, she sees, what's it called? She sees it more than I do. Are there internet media retirement plans? Like, how does that work in Canada? I don't think there are retirement plans for internet media people. What there is, essentially, is if you're a creator, you have to like look at other people who work in like our kinds of media, which is that you have to kind of treat your work as property management, i.e. Every YouTube video I make is mine and I own it until 70 years after I die, or whatever the law is in Canada. And so what I need to do is, manage my property to make sure that I'm getting my, dues from it. And the more that I could add to, like, the way that an artist's platform, or the way that, like, a media person's income works is that you keep making content. And as you grow a growing body of stuff that you make, it'll kind of create a what's called like a stream of nickels. Every individual piece that you make starts adding to a greater cumulative baseline income that passively comes in. Like my advertising revenue, for example, has been very slowly going up as I make more videos, because now there's like 100 almost there's like 141 step back videos now or something like that. So, not to mention like the time when I used to do quick step and any other random videos I have on the step back. I think there's like 250 uploads at this point. So all that adds up, and I get like AdSense from every single one of them, and I'll be sitting on that for hopefully the rest of my life, unless like YouTube takes down my account or YouTube goes under. But even if that does happen, I have all my videos archived, so I will, there'll probably be a place for me to put them. But my hope is that in lieu of having like your traditional retirement plan, is that by the time I'm old enough that I can't do work anymore. First of all, artists don't typically finish doing their work, Actors can be acting until they're like, really, really old. They just do less of it. And that hopefully by the time I'm an older age, that my audience is large enough that I can subsist on for a good chunk of my career. And if everything falls through, I have a bunch of experience running my own business and making content and social media stuff that I could probably find some kind of job. Huh. That went into me talking about like my doomsday plans for my channel before. Way too late. All right, next question we got here. I watched a video about how 1980s Trump bought a budget airline and managed to tank by installing gold toilets and offering high-class meals and drinks on a flight that was only 40 minutes long. I told my mother about it and she laughed. But then she said something like, yes, well, he stayed in business a long time and kept making money, so he must be clever. That's not a question. That's just a thing that happened. Have a good night, a Cassiopeia. Okay. So, my retirement plan is just die young. That's why I call Gen Z baby. Yeah, that's the other. There's also dying young. I have considered that too. No, other ways that I've planned for retirement is that I have. We just recently bought a house, so that's an investment, and I plan on like what's it called? My wife and I buy investments more often than probably the average person is because I work in a creative field which can have ups and downs. Although with Patreon, that's less of a case, so it's nice. Patreon allows for a completely different business model for creatives than we've had before, which is quite nice. It makes it much easier for a person who does art to do a career. Please tell me about investment stuff later. Sure. Yeah. There are ways to invest that are pretty, good and safe and such. As safe as you can get, I guess. Why do people think you have to be smart to stay rich? I must not copy that part. Well, the answer to that is because it's the predominant myth of our economy. It's the predominant myth of our capitalist society. You know this. We think that people who are we think that the world's a meritocracy and that the richest are people move to the top and not just like, the children of rich people. What if somebody managed to assassinate Reagan and Bush at the same time in 1985 and Tip O'Neill became president? I don't know. Then Tip O'Neill would be president. I don't know where to go from there. Check the chat. What, if anything, could a New Deal Democrat get done if they somehow lucked into being president in the 80s? I imagine that you could do quite a bit. Unions were pretty weak at that point, but they weren't dead. They were in a much more powerful place than they are today. So you probably have more luck with a New Deal Democrat like in the 80s than like now. Maybe they'd be able to, stem the changes, but especially if it was during Reagan's first term, which that would not be. That'd be Reagan's second term. Reagan's second term is when he started to, suffer more cognitive decline, and he also realized that actions have consequences. And so Reagan's second term, he had done most of the damage that he was going to do. And the late 80s, he was a little bit more cautious and a little bit more conciliatory and was less of like trying to actively start World War III with the Soviet Union. So one of my concerns is how I do taxes and the like. Does Patreon have anything to document your income? That's a good question. When I do my taxes, Patreon, I just count Patreon as like a kind of like freelance income. There's not really like a really great way to talk. Like no one's given you like a hard and fast rule on how to mention Patreon on your taxes. There isn't really like a Patreon place. I'm not really an employee. I'm sort of like a contractor for Patreon, or sort of like a freelancer for Patreon, independent contractor, I guess, kind of like being an Uber driver. in which they have the service of taking the money from the other people and processing it for me. I think there is a tax form for the U.S., but for me, I have to process it as like American income. So that's like a thing. You would claim would you claim Patreon like you're supposed to claim tips, wouldn't you? Not really. Patreon's a bit. It would be too much of my income to declare it like tips, because Patreon's probably like, if I were to hazard a guess, it's like close to. It's been different a little bit lately because of Twitch and the sort of AdSense. I would say that it's about like 40% of my income comes from Patreon, maybe a little bit less than that. So it's a big thing. How do I get more patrons? I'm baby. Make content and make content on a platform that algorithmically promotes your videos for you. That's how I did it. I think that that patronage works different in different areas, and I am not a graphic artist, so I don't really know how to. I don't know how artists do their Patreon. My guess is that you have to make you have to make something that makes people really you have to make a piece of media that people feel invested in, like I don't know, like a comic book or web comic or something. Otherwise, yeah, then it's like commission work, right? Do I use Ko-fi? I don't use Ko-fi. I use PayPal donations. I don't exactly know why people choose Ko-fi over PayPal, but that's because I haven't looked into it yet. I have a task to someday look into Ko-fi and find out what's the deal with Ko-fi, and if it's good, I'll probably set something up. But I haven't gotten around to that yet. I've been taken away with the idea of making YouTube videos. I don't know why people pronounce it like that. It's pretty clearly pronounced coffee. Yeah, I guess. But like, I don't know what the deal with it is, but I'm sure I'll have to figure it out at some point. Still going to do it. I'm almost afraid of the possibility of making enough on Patreon and YouTube for it to be a career and have to do taxes with it. Yeah. At this point, like, I feel like this year is going to be unique for that for me, because like I haven't gotten to the point, like right now, the amount that I make as a YouTuber is not enough to really count as a, like right now, my income is low enough that I'm below the point when they even start charging taxes. So in many times, if I file my taxes and like I didn't just like have like the right forms and everything like that, and you count the income and you do all the things, we got an accountant to do ours last time because Kelly's taxes are complicated because she's a dual citizen, so we already have to do a lot of weird things. Anyways, it resulted in me getting, like, I when I file taxes, I get money still. I don't pay money. I don't know when I'm going to pass that point. It might be this year. I don't know. Because I'm starting to get to, like minimum wage type income, maybe even something a little bit above that. So we'll see where that goes. But I haven't had to worry about it. And the one thing I will tell you, Duke, is that literally nobody knows. I had somebody from a YouTube channel that has over 1 million subscribers reach out to me and ask how I do my taxes for YouTube. So it's something that nobody knows how to do. And finding, the people who are doing the most well are usually just using an accountant. Like I said, we were already using an accountant because Kelly's taxes are complicated, so I just threw mine on that. Someone needs to ask Natalie. Well, one of the things that Natalie does, and it is a thing that I do too, and maybe this will make things easier in the future, but here's the thing. Natalie has made ContraPoints into a business. Because Natalie, the thing about Natalie is that Natalie has employees. She has at least she has a professional. She has a musician. She has research assistants. I think she has one research assistant, and she has. She used to have a director of photography who would come to her house to film the videos with her. That was before COVID. I don't know what it's like now. And so she had to set up a business in which she pays herself from the business account, in which case then you're doing the taxes of a business owner. And I also own a business. Step Back is a channel that is run by Square Zero Productions, which is the name of my company. Of which it is a sole proprietorship, which means that I am the only employee of the company. So money comes into that account and I get paid like it's income from my company. So there's that, I guess. But I haven't, but that's just a tax thing, because I've never gotten to the point where I had to, where Square Zero's had to have any actual budget, because the only thing that we pay money for it is for QuickBooks and for a bank account. Are her employees unionized? My guess is no. But I don't know. I don't quote me on that. I've literally not asked. I don't know anything about her employees. Are my employees unionized? Yes. No. Nobody who works at my company is unionized. I tried to start a contract. The thing is that when I tried to unionize, we hired strikebreakers, and it shut everything down. So there was some violence, and there was some violence, and there was some some stuff went down. There's so there's no Step Back union yet. My boss is kind of a hard ass. She's right over here, actually. As you can see, she does no work. I have to do all the work, but she gets all the rewards. Is the company name a math reference? It was supposed to be a reference to, or it wasn't supposed to be a reference. It was supposed to be like an idea. The idea behind the company name was that it was supposed to be about looking at things from a different angle that you would not expect. And so there was that whole thing about starting from square one. And I was like, oh, well, Step Back is starting from square zero, because you have to it's about looking at the way that you perceive the world around you. All of that postmodern stuff that people hate. The idea that you need to look at the way that you look at the world before you can, start building something. And so I called it Square Zero because of that, because Step Back sort of sells itself on this concept of it being looking at history sideways, looking at it from a different angle. And that's sort of a thing that I moved on to when I had to make a business. So there's that. All right. Let's move that question. Was going on holiday to the East Bloc countries something Americans were even allowed to do in the 1960s? Yes, it was hard, but you could do it. You had to apply for a visa to the Soviet Union, for example. And then when you went, it would be kind of like with North Korea. You would be put on a government tour, and you'd be very limited in the things that you could do and the people that you could talk to. But it was a thing you could do. So yeah. Another thing too, what's it called? I'm pretty sure Philosophy Tube has a research assistant, I think. It's like, like Ollie like goes through like 20 books for every video he makes, which makes me think that he's got at least have one more person helping him go through that. Would you ever go on a tour in North Korea if I had the opportunity? Oh yeah, I totally would. That's like a really unique, like, if I had the opportunity to go to North Korea like that, it would be such a unique thing to do. We're sadists right all along. I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm there yet. I don't know if I'm that doomer yet. I don't know if I'm going to Passad yet. So in a video the other day, Jessie Gender claimed that she thinks it's probably easier radicalizing far-right people to the left, i.e. compared to centrists, because they, like us, recognize there's something wrong with the state of affairs. Thoughts on that take? I just feel like I'd have to talk to her about, clarify some things, because, like, I think that it's, I disagree with that notion. I think that just because you think society is wrong, if your solution is kill all the marginalized people, then, you know, not really a great answer. You've run out of questions that aren't from me. Yes, that is true. Lucky you. The thing is, I haven't run out of questions that aren't from you. What I have run out of are questions that aren't from you that are also not for Mia. What can you tell us about pre-2001 Islamophobia? It was different. The thing is that, like, before 9/11, in America anyway, Islamophobia was not... It existed, but it was channeled in different ways. Like, there wasn't... the Al-Qaeda thing wasn't as big a thing. And so, while a lot of Americans just didn't know what Islam was, and they couldn't tell you the first thing about it, they had absorbed through the demonization of Iranians and the demonization of Palestinians and the sort of like Louis Farrakhan and the Brotherhood of Islam in the African American community, that they sort of had they had a negative view of Islam, if they had a view of Islam, because it was A, not Christian, and B, sometimes associated with, like, you know, Malcolm X, or with Palestinian terrorists that hijack airplanes, or Iran, which has the Ayatollah, and that kind of stuff. That was sort of the, just before, like, you know, September 10th, 2001, you know, Islamophobia. And then kind of before the 1970s, before, like, that idea of, like, the Islamic terrorist who hijacks airplanes and stuff like that, that was then more into exoticism. That the Middle East was this place where, like, it was like, oh, it was this mystical land where you know, they were really, like, the idea of the harem, like, the villa that a powerful, like, sultan who has many, many wives would live in. That was considered very, you know, that was like, oh, how alluring, the harem, or, you know, where all of the women are. And so, like, there was this very, like, exoticized idea that, like, the Middle East was this place where, like, there's sexy times, and it was, you know, weird and strange, and, you know, like, kind of like, you know, doing the Aladdin thing. Could Aladdin have been made 10 years later? Probably not. It would have gotten some pushback for sure. It was made 20 years later. The remade, what's it called? The remake of Aladdin is its own thing at the moment. like with Will Smith and stuff. Although I think that I don't know if anyone's done like an Islamophobia surrounding Aladdin yet, but something makes me think that it's almost like it's a sequel to, or it's a remake. It's so much more based on the fact that it's a remake to something from Western canon from the previous decade. It's probably more of a thing. Don't want to make you feel old, but closer to 30. Fair. I forgot about how old Aladdin is. Did Hakeem did a critique of Aladdin? What, like he was like he did like a I don't like Muslims and Aladdin is bad because of it? If so, I very much dislike Aladdin. Or not, I very much dislike Hakeem then. I'm not what's it called? I am not a fan of Islamophobia, friends. If it's like why Aladdin has problems because it has like an Orientalist portrayal of people from the Middle East, that is like, you know, then we can have a conversation. But if it's like I don't like Aladdin because Muslims are in it, that's fucked up. The Orientalizing conversation hasn't gone mainstream yet. Yeah, I know. Suppose someone managed to assassinate Reagan and Bush. Read to the end! This is a different question! In 1985 and Tip O'Neill became president. How do you think he'd do in the 1988 election? Would a New Deal post-war consensus Democrat have a chance in hell of winning an election in the 1980s? I.e., even with the incumbency advantage? My guess is no. My guess is that a Republican probably would have won. Just because, like, you think about, like, the Democrats in the 70s already were, like, not doing super great. So, something makes me think that, you know, Reagan's assassination followed by, like, if there was a neocon or a neoliberal who was still involved, I think that you would probably still end up with what you're talking about. Hakeem criticizing Orientalism. All right, that's more of an interesting video. Will you analyze one of the Disney movies set in Canada, like White Fang, for example? I don't know. All right. Let's delete that one. Please clap. Yeah, Jeb would be president. That is the correct answer. All right. Would it be better if countries couldn't influence each other? Like, suppose every country on Earth could pursue a different economic ideology without worrying about being embargoed or invaded because a post-scarcity tech makes trading with other countries not needed. Well, I believe in internationalism, and I actually think that if we, like, what's it called? If you silo countries off like that, what it does engender is a sense of isolationism and limited thinking. And I think that we are better off because we can influence each other. I know that it sucks when it comes to, like, you know, trade embargoes and stuff like that, but the fact that we learn from each other's cultures and we understand people different from us because we have to, is an important part of the human condition. And if we were to just, like, you know, cut off everybody who wasn't like us, it would make us rather limited in our ability. What's the difference between communism and anarchism? Not much. Specifically, like the state of communism as Marx wrote about it, which would be a moneyless, stateless society where people would just sort of vibe and produce and enjoy the fruits of their labor. That basically is anarchism. The only thing that I would probably say is that anarchists, by their philosophy, have a emphasis on the importance of dismantling hierarchies and hierarchical organizations, which is in communism, but it doesn't have as much of an emphasis. And the idea of government, like the idea of power of one person over another, is much more primacy. It's anarchist. While like a communist might be more focused on the economic equality, an anarchist would be more focused on anti-authoritarianism, if that makes sense. And if someone said, "Where's the cat?" And there's the cat. Phoebe is sleeping. She's being very quiet. She is a very quiet cat, though. She almost never meows. Anarchism is a process, not an ideal. Yeah, that's a pretty good way to look at it. Like, most anarchists don't expect to see, like, dismantled, integrated communes anytime in their lifetime, but are focused to the idea of dismantling, like, anti-democratic institutions like the state and capitalism wherever they can. Will Joe Biden beat Harrison's record? Oh my God. I do think he's going to live longer than 30 days, yes. I think I've heard her meow once in the stream over the last year and some. You think that, but that was probably Romeo. Romeo meows, but Phoebe, the only time she really meows at any time is when she wants food. And only, like, not even when she wants food. She meows only when, like, you've got the food in the tray and you've committed the horrible crime of not putting it on the ground yet. That's when she meows. And it's, like, very quiet. Does she purr? Yes, she does. Anarchism is democracy taken seriously. That's a pretty good one. So I just finished season 2 of The Boys, and it turned out their AOC stand-in is a secret bad guy. I didn't really see her as an AOC stand-in. Interesting. Is it a problem that the jaded libs who write political satires like The Boys can't imagine somebody running for office without ulterior motives? I mean, whatever you think about the new radical wings of either party, I think they're sincere in what they believe in. That's interesting. Well, that's the thing about the reality of The Boys, right? The Boys is like a extremely cynical world. There's no room for sincerity in that world at all. And so I feel like if they made a sincere politician, it wouldn't even it would not even fit in the world. It'd feel like it would stick out almost. Comic is even worse than the book. Oh boy. My cat's vibing watching the stream with me. Sweet. If the step back workers start a union, who will be in charge, you or Romeo? Fuck. I mean, Romeo probably has the votes. And I feel like him and management would have more points that they agree on because they both want more food delivered when they demand it, which is constantly. So something makes me think that they'd be able to work out a contract easier, so. You didn't see that she was an AOC stand-in? I didn't think so, no. Honestly, that didn't occur to me. So a little while, Paul Mason went on Novara Media and said, "We, the UK left, should support Hong Kong being allowed to move to the UK because people of color, they'd be likely Labour voters. Setting aside the morality of taking a stance for that reason, do you think it's correct to even think they become a Labour voter? I mean, they'd be leaving Hong Kong because they want to get away from communist China, and just look at Cuban Americans vote. Yeah, I don't think that it's necessarily all that likely that they would vote for Labour. I don't know how that kind of politics would match. My guess is that there'd probably be new political parties made from the political parties that already exist in Hong Kong. But, what's it called? I don't know who Paul Mason is. Is Paul Mason... Is that Thunderfoot? Oh, no. Probably not Thunderfoot. Now I'm going to have to look at that season of The Boys again and see if watch this politician. What was in that box, or are they just packing boxes? These right here, these are packing boxes that are not even made yet. Like, I have to tape them together still. Phoebe's sitting on top of a like a Rubbermaid container that's full of blankets. Because when we last moved in here, we got movers because we were moving from Toronto, and they left a moving blanket here, and then they just said we could keep it. So I've got this moving blanket, I've got my hoodie in there, and then there's another blanket that's randomly in there because we packed all the blankets in one place and then put it in my office, and then we never had a need for blankets, so we never unpacked them. Is my cat a god? Phoebe? She has godlike tendencies. I haven't packed up my office yet because I was waiting until, one, the stream was over, but two, I have a feeling I decided that I like what's it called? I wanted to do all my packing of the office here on the last day because then I can add my computer to the mix, and my desktop here I want to have as like one of the last things that I pack up on Saturday night. So I've been putting off packing up my office. The next thing I'll be packing up is what's it called? On Friday, we're packing up our kitchen. Did you get high and watch Wizard of Oz the other night? No, I didn't. I forgot because I am a failure of a human being. Is the tweed jacket with the blankets? No, I looked. We don't know where that tweed jacket is. It's gone. And it's not the only thing that disappeared. Like, a handful of things disappeared in the move, and we don't know where they went. Like, we lost a lamp, too. I think on Monday I had work to do. I can't remember what I did in the evening, but I probably could have. The removalists took it. Removalists are the worst. It'd be so wild if I randomly found the blazer. Oh my god. Be a fucking revelation. I would have to write into my next video some sort of development. See, this is the thing. This is one of the things, like, one of my biggest disappointments, I gotta say. I'm very disappointed by this, I do have to say. Is that one of the things I experimented early early in 2020. I wanted to try making a more narrative aspect of my YouTube videos where I had like a plot and stuff like that. And if you remembered, I tried that with like the Dinesh D'Souza Infinity War and Endgame thing, right? So you probably remember this. But people really didn't like it. People complained a lot about Dinesh D'Souza Infinity War. And so it made me sad. And so, because I learned when I making Dinesh D'Souza Endgame or Infinity War taught me an important fact, which is that there's a significant part of my audience that wants boring YouTube videos, and they don't want me to try anything interesting. And so I just gotta ban somebody real quick. And so now I just do like these video essays, and it's sad because like I wanted to play more with that, but people didn't like it, so here we are. It only has 81 dislikes. I just checked. Yeah, well, like people, it wasn't so much the like dislike ratio. It was like I got comments that were like, you know, I wanted to fast forward past all the stupid shit. Then again, it actually did better. Those videos did better in retrospect. So it might have just been doing bad because my channel was kind of doing poorly back at that point. But now that my channel's doing well, it might do better, you know, going forward. Because they're kind of like retroactively videos. You wanted to have a plot in your videos. Are you on Channel Awesome in 2010? No. I just thought it would be fun because, like, step back videos are interesting. I like the stories that are in them. But, like, I wanted to... I don't know. I'm always, like, so inspired by videos like... one that always comes to mind is the Control-Alt-Delete video by H-Bomber Guy that had... And that, like, sort of, like, thing with the... you know, there's sort of, like, a meta plot in the thing that's all about, like, the host in this, like, psychedelic weird reality that's being chased by, like, an evil demon thing. And, like, I wanted to do more stuff like that, but maybe I'm not, like, I have to become a better writer to do something funny like that. And also I need, like, you know, 6 months between my videos so that I can be successful and make more content, because at one point I wanted to make my videos kind of on the quality of, like, H-Bomber Guy and you know, ContraPoints videos, but I don't have the budget, nor do I have the, like, I don't feel like Step Back would work well if I went, like, 2 months between making videos, you know? Oh, he's the one who wrote Post-Capitalism. He's a Starmer supporter now, so who knows where he is now. Fair. I have no idea. A video with Dinesh's beautiful face cannot do bad. Interesting. I'm not gonna kink shame you, but okay. Alrighty. So I think that's gonna be my last question for the night, because we were at 8:59. The night just caught up with us, didn't it? Alrighty. If you could do some on-location stuff, that'd be neat. I have the stuff for it. Just right now with COVID and the fact that there's like 10 centimeters of snow on the ground would make things a little more difficult, but maybe I should think more about it. I am planning on making, right now I'm working on a very, very slow production for the next Patreon stretch goal video that I'm working on, which is on Operation Paperclip. So maybe I'll try to make, and I know, unlike my videos I make now really quickly where I do dot, like, I just work off of notes rather than, like, you know, word for word script everything out. But I'm going to word for word script out the this video that I'm working on kind of in the background, like on the back burner. And if that happens, then I think I actually might, my Operation Paperclip video, I might actually, like, try to do a story. I know that I've got, tentatively, I've got 3 arrows and Do Not Eat, at least interested in being involved with it, so maybe I can do something with them. We'll find out. Anyways, we need to we need to raid somebody. So let's say, I don't know about Benjamin Dixon anymore. Left Flank Vets is a pretty good person to stream. Lumi doesn't need my raid. She, yeah. They've got 174 people going right now, so I'm gonna... Left Flank Vets needs me more. Alright. Everybody, you'll see a brand new office next time we do a stream. So, everybody, be good to each other, be kind, and yeah, I'll see you in my new home. Take care.